Hey guys, it's David from 3D Make It. Have you ever struggled with getting objects not to stick to the build plate in your slicer? Today we're going to show you how to fix that. Let's go. Hey guys, so the default for a slicer is when you bring a model in, it wants to settle it to the build plate so that it's easier for you to print. It makes sense, but what if we want our models to float? And what if we want to combine a few things easily without having to open Fusion, 3D Builder, Mesh Mixer, or another CAD software to merge things? Well, today I'm going to show you how to do that in Prusa and Cura. We're going to use two sweet models. One is Benchy, and the other is going to be the Cartoon Bernie and Mittens by Chaos Cortex. We can find that over on Things. So let's jump over. We'll download those models and then we'll throw them into PrusaSlicer to start with. So I know I don't have to show you how to get Benchy. Go to Thingiverse, download Benchy. It's 3D Benchy. We can get them. Here I'm going to come to Things, and this is just the home page. You do need an account to download things from Things, but then we can find Chaos Cortex, and it's actually in the popular list right now. We'll pick the Bernie. We'll scroll down, and the Bernie will load a preview here. And what we're after is the download all button. Now I've already downloaded it, so I don't need to click again. One thing to note is if you're getting this model, the chair has been separated from the Bernie. So there's two files in this for a chair and Bernie. And I think it was Chelsea at Chaos Cortex that made these lovely models for us. The chair is, something's wrong with this one, so she made a new one. So if you're getting the chair, just be aware of that. But let's download Bernie and we'll get them into PrusaSlicer next. So we're going to jump into PrusaSlicer to start with. We're going to bring in a model now. There are many ways to do it, and we have shown how to bring in models before. You can click and drag, but today we're using import. So we're just going to go import, and we see that I have my Benchy. So I'll bring Benchy in, and then I'm going to go file import again, and then I'm going to bring in Bernie. So Cartoon Bernie and Bernie. So you can see here that the default method of bringing in the models is flat to the build plate. So both models actually have something touching the build plate. Now, they're orientated in this manner because this is the way they were exported from a CAD program. So if Benchy was tipped or Bernie was tipped, the model will still try to settle. So as an example, if Bernie was like this, you can see how he automatically sits down on the build plate. So if I turn him more, he sits even more, and pieces of him try the best they can. So you can see his little foot's touching there, and it always will try to touch the build plate. Now, let's say we want to get a little crazy. We want to get Benchy and Bernie talking together. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to get Benchy and we're going to make Benchy bigger. About that big, just to accommodate our Bernie. Now, it's of note that my printer is an SX4, which is 400 by 400, because right now this Benchy, if we look over here from our x-axis, we got 231 millimeters. So he is pushing the build size of an ender, but that's okay. We'll show you how to fix this after in a second. Now, Bernie, we want Bernie, our good friend, to be over here, and we want him to be sitting in the back of the boat. Now, if we rotate him and stuff, we can get him close to where we want him, like this. And then remember, in Prusa, if you snap to the inside lines, it's always going to sit the way you want. And then we're going to go move. And, well, we don't want Bernie, like, sitting on the deck of the boat. I'd rather have him on the box behind Benchy. So the next logical step is lift him. So we're going to go and we're going to lift our Bernie, and we think about here looks good. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to let go of the mouse and drop right back down to the build plate. So this is what I'm talking about. The default action in Prusa is let's drop it to the build plate. So I'm going to delete Bernie. And what we're going to do is click Benchy and right click him, and we're going to go add part, and then we're going to go load. Now we're going to pick Cartoon Bernie again, and he'll come in, and you can see here that compared to Benchy, he's huge. So what happens is when you scale up Benchy, it scales up the object you've added to it instead of using the original size. So let's pick Cartoon Bernie. And we are going to scale him because he is gigantic. So let's just scale him a bit. Now you notice how I picked him in the side here? Because if I click here, sometimes it picks all of them. And you can see that right now it's picking all of them. And this box will actually govern them all. But if I pick my instance in the side here, it does not. So then I can go move, and then I can grab Bernie. And now I can get a sense of scale as I bring him into the Benchy realm of things. So first off, we can tell that Bernie is gigantic still. So we're going to scale him down just a bit more, probably about yay big. Okay, now let's zoom in a bit. I'm going to turn it, and then we're going to go and move our Bernie down. So we can see his feet are inside of Benchy, so let's rotate him around. So again, I'm just using the normal tools that we would. I snap him over. And now I'm just going to look at back, the back, of Benchy. We're going to grab the move again, and I'm just going to kind of move Bernie where I want him. And then let's look at the side, and he's getting close, except he's still way too big. This isn't kind of what I want him to look like. So I'll scale him back a bit. And then I'm going to use the move again, and we're just going to see how he's doing. So that way looks okay, but we still have a bit back to go now. So if I grab him and I move him back, and we can see that I have a bit down to go, and I want him inside the box, right about there. I want him to be kind of touching. So let's see how we're doing. Now, we can kind of look and see at his feet here, if we're touching the boat. So if we move up and down, you can see his foot disappear. And we just want his foot, the flat one, just to disappear a little. Just like that. So now we know that that foot is touching the deck, and that will print. So let's just make sure that our sizing, yeah, he's kind of sitting up against the edge there. And then when we look at this, the only problem I can really see is maybe his foot on the one side. See this foot here? It's not actually touching anything. It's beside this. And there's a few ways to fix this. In our model that we originally uploaded and is available, we decided, wouldn't it be fun if Bernie had a bait box? So we made it so that Bernie is maybe fishing, maybe. And so here's where we get really clever. To fix his foot, we right click the model, we go add part, and we can go add cylinder. And it just gives us a random cylinder. So let's shrink this cylinder down a little bit in size. And we're going to drag this cylinder over here, right here, just so I can see it. I'll get my other tool up. You can hit T and R to move between the tools. So then I'm just going to zoom out a bit here. We're going to rotate it. So I'll bring it up on the boat, move it over, and you can see now I'm covering his foot. So that's good. So let's bring this cylinder down. And then again, we're just going to cover the bottom of his foot. So we can see here, just move it up and rotate it a bit, that now this little circle, our bait box, is going to come up and touch his foot. And you can see it kind of enveloped it a little bit there, which is perfect, which means it's given it a surface to print. Now, those of you screaming at the screen are like, hey, wait, Bernie's butt is in midair underneath the box right here. And you are correct. So one more thing, we need to fill in that space. So the easiest way for us to do this is going to be right click the model, add a part, add a box. We're going to take the box, we're going to move the box. I'm going to kind of center the box where I want it. Then I'm going to move the box up. So there is the box up, and then we can go kind of sky view just to make sure that it's centered. Yeah, I like that. You can move it over a bit. Now it doesn't have to be centered, it has to cover the whole. So once you're happy with the coverage, which I am now, I can go back and I can say, okay, well, if I move it down a bit, I can actually get it so that it's going to just fill in that lip. So you can see where the green is, and it just starts to fill in. So this is where you get to see how clean your mouse and trackball is. If you use a trackball, and you're just going to slide it in there and let go. So now that's roughly centered. There's going to be a nice seat for him to sit on, and it will print. So if we slice this now, it'll generate our G code for us, and we will see how we did. Now, this particular Benchy, again, is huge. So I'm going to let it generate the G code, and then we're going to show you what it looks like and then fix the overall size of it. Okay, our render is done and we can see that Benchy is now printing. Bernie is sitting in the back of Benchy on top of the box that we created with his foot touching the top of the cylinder, his bait box that we made there. And then the other thing is his other foot has rendered properly on top of the deck here. So let's just move this so we can see it a little bit better. And we can see everything there. If we need a little proof, we can use the slider. And as we come up, we can see that the deck is forming before any of the other features. Then his foot on the left-hand side closest to us here forms, and the bait box is forming. Then in about 10 layers more, his shoe forms on top of the bait box, and then we have Bernie sitting on Benchy. Now, this Bernie on Benchy is fairly large. If you don't like the large size of him, remember, we have made this an instance now because we inserted the objects into our part. So I right-clicked the part, I added part, and I'm inserting into this grouping here. So since it's a grouping, I can click on Benchy or the top link here, and then I can use my scale. And now when I scale, everything scales up and down. So you can change the size for your printer. Now the one that we're uploading is roughly 170 millimeters, I think, from back to front of the boat. So it's okay. It'll fit on most printers. It does take a little bit to print. It was about a 2-hour print on my printer, this printer actually, that's in the rendering preview here. So it's a fun print and it's easy to do. So in PrusaSlicer, remember, when we add a part to a part, we can float that part above the part. And can I say the word part more? Yes, I could. But just remember, that's how we accomplish getting parts on top of one another in PrusaSlicer. Next, let me show you Cura. Okie doke, we are in Cura and we are going to bring in our models. So again, we can go File Open and we can go to our downloads and we can go to our correct downloads folder. And we can grab Benchy and it will bring Benchy in. And then I can go File Open and then we can grab Cartoon Bernie and it will bring Bernie in. So if you were keeping tabs in the other slicer we were using, Prusa, there were errors on Benchy as well. I didn't fix them for this video, but you should fix the errors. Mesh Tools has caught the errors of Benchy in Cura as well. I'm just going to close that alert so we can continue. So here's our Bernie. So we will move Bernie just a little bit to the right here. And here's our Benchy. We're going after the same thing. We want Bernie sitting on Benchy. So first off, again, let's scale Benchy. We don't have to make it too big, but let's make him big-ish. So there's Benchy. Again, we can bring the size down after. So let's grab Bernie. And we're going to make Bernie roughly there. And then we're going to hit T on the keyboard to move to our move icons, and then we're going to grab them and move them back. We can rotate this, and then we're going to rotate Bernie around so he can sit in the bow. Now Cura doesn't have as nice of a snap mechanism, so you're going to want to get to 180 degrees and let go, and then we'll move our Bernie up. And now here's the fun part. Bernie is falling to the build plate again. So we need in Cura to do the same thing. So if we go settings, and then what we're going to do is actually click configure settings, and we're going to go to the general tab here. You can see here there's one that says automatically drop models to the build plate. We shut that off, we hit close. Now I can move Bernie up and look, he does not fall. So we don't use the same grouping method as we did in PrusaSlicer, but we move Bernie up and down. We can scale him now just to the right size. Oh, that's a cute little Bernie, but I think we want him a little bit bigger. So maybe about that big. Yeah, he's looking okay. Let's leave him there. We'll move him down. So again, same tricks. You can get Bernie's foot so it just disappears into the top. So it's disappeared, it's reappeared. And I like that right there. Now I'm going to move him over just a squeak so his feet kind of straddle that. Now in Cura, I wish there was a nicer way to automatically add a part, like a cylinder or a box, but there is not. So right now our Bernie is sitting in midair. and we need him to not be sitting in midair. So let's click our Bernie. We're just going to do a foot check again now that I scaled him. And right there, his one foot's in. Let's see, his other foot's kind of floating and it's not touching anything. So we're going to open another tool to fix this problem. So really quick, we're just going to go in here and open 3D Builder. Now this is just normal 3D Builder. So we're going to insert, and we're just going to insert a cylinder. And it doesn't matter, I'm not going to resize this cylinder in here. What I am going to do is hit File, Save, and then in my, let's say, Cartoon Bernie folder here, I'm going to save, and we're just going to call it cylinder. Actually, sil, like that, because I'm lazy. And then we'll go STL and save. And it's okay. It's just warning us that we'll lose some features if we save it as STL. So I deleted my cylinder. I'm going to go Insert. I'm going to go Cube. And then I'm going to go File, Save As. And then I'm going to go STL. And it's already in the right directory because it would have stayed there. And this is a box. So box, save. Now what we need to do, again, 3MF warning, don't worry, just continue as STL. So we're going to bring in our two other objects. So we're going to go Open Files, and then we want to bring in the box, and we want to bring in our cylinder. So basically all we did now is made our primitives in a different program. And since we can float now over our build plate, we can grab this and again, size everything the way we like it. So we might not want to make that one so big, which is fine. And then we're just going to come down and move it. It's under the build plate now, or under the deck now. And so we're just going to get it under his toe. And I think we're looking pretty good. So see, I have this box, but I still have my arrow. So I can bring it up and now it's visible again. And then I can kind of like get it into position. And you can see here that the default box size isn't too bad from 3D Builder. So I'm just going to sync it again to kind of the top of that benchy box. So I'm going to click off. It's pretty close. There's a little, let's zoom in. There's a little gap right here. So if I just bring that up a bit, right there. I like that. And so now we have the same thing in Cura. So in Cura, there's not actually a nice way to size them all that I have found together. If you hit Control A, it will select all the objects and then you can shrink them. But you can see here right now that the metric actually separates them all and then shrinks them. So it's not remembering their position on the build plate. It's just redoing the sizing. So when you start, make sure you get an approximate size you like, or once you get the model the way you like it, you can hit File and you can hit Export. And you can see here it gives you 3MF. Now, 3MF saves your project settings, which means actually each body gets saved as well. So for this trick, we're going to save it as an STL. I'll go binary, but you can use ASCII too. It doesn't matter in this case. It's going to put your printer name like it would in any Cura project. So that's fine. I'll hit save. And that will save. Now, once it saves, what you're going to end up is a consolidated, grouped together file that you can actually modify. So I'm going to hit all, and what we're going to do is drag this guy off the build plate now. So he'll just sit out there. And then we'll go File, Open. And we're going to go to that new file, that MSX4 Benchy we just made. We'll open it. And once it opens, we can see that that file is actually going to be the right orientation for Benchy and Bernie. So here's the new file. We'll get it on the build plate. And now that's one piece. So if I go to scale it or turn it or move it. Oh, my uniform scaling's off, guys. Let's uniform scale. Yeah, that's better. And my mouse is a little dirty, so it's like really snappy. But you can see here, yeah, it's easy to redo. Now, remember, we turned off the build plate function to make this Benchy, so it's just floating there now. So we can click on the move button here and just set our Z to 0, and that will quickly snap anything to the build plate. So now we have our Bernie Benchy ready to go. And if you wanted to, with the other one, So with this guy, if you really wanted to save this as a project where you could come back to it and work on it and keep the objects together, you can go and file export as 3MF. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is if you load a 3MF into PrusaSlicer, you can manipulate it the same way, but it's automatically grouped and it makes it easy to handle. So let's bring that 3MF project into PrusaSlicer just for fun. So here it is. It's the one we just bounced from Cura. And when you open it in PrusaSlicer, it'll load for a minute and we won't anger the beast from loading. And then it will ask, hey, I found multiple parts in this file. Should I consider them all as one file or as multiple parts in a project? And we want it as multiple parts. So what I'm going to tell it is, yes, I should consider this file as a signal object with multiple parts. So as soon as I do that, we get our Benchy. And then, hey, there's Bernie on the Benchy. We made this in Cura. We can see that Benchy is still damaged. But if I click the scale button, check this out. Prusa can handle that resizing now, just like it did in Cura. Now, I know you probably wouldn't do the project in Cura, then bring it into Prusa, because Prusa has those built-in cylinders and boxes. But I'm just showing you that you can bring 3MF projects into Prusa or into, Mesh Mixer or wherever you're bringing it to make it better. Now, I would suggest before you print this project that you're going to click and you're going to repair Benchy. That's an important thing to do. So before you even start the project, make sure you fire off the auto repair on Benchy boat. So I know you're all dying to see it. So here it is in glorious high resolution, the printed Bernie on a Benchy. Now, my copy of it does have a layer shift. I was doing maintenance on my SX4, so I had a little bit of a layer shift, but it's fixed now. So here it is. Let's check out our Benchy. So I hope that helps you a little bit with how to get models floating above the build plate in your slicer and how to stack models if you want to print multiple things in your slicer. If you made it this far, you are awesome. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and until next time, guys, have a good one.